the idea of strengths plays a bigger role. Besides the market research that you are going to do and put in place and all the data and everything, a business that really wins is the one that you do out of passion. Yeah.
But is there such things as a hopeless case where nothing can be done? A person can never become an entrepreneur no matter what you do to them.
Not everybody is cut out for entrepreneurship. There are people who are going to be best as working for other people, supporting the vision of the entrepreneur, and they are going to be successful in that area.
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond.
Hello, Dumelang, and welcome to another great episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe is my name, your host. Thank you for carrying us for 5 years. We are almost there. Next month, we'll be celebrating our 5th year anniversary as a podcast, and it's because of you that we've done so well, and thank you so much. Let me just say, I also have another shameless plug, my book, Mogobe Momp Nuggets of Grit, from the kettle post to serial entrepreneurship, and the book is now available from Exclusive Books. As a matter of fact, from today, I think it retails for $360. It's also available from here if you want to grab a copy from us. In addition to that, we are available as Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom in a new format. By that I mean we've added a little brother, as it were, called the Legal Series. So coming next week, look out for the Legal Series, where we dive deep into legal issues of different types. I invite legal experts and seasoned lawyers onto the studio to dissect matters of law and issues of legal interest as they affect the general public. But for today, we're going to talk entrepreneurship, and I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. His name is Mr. Moemedi Senwelo, who happens to be a friend and also a mentee. But in the context of today, I'm the mentee, he's the mentor, because he's going to talk to us about this book called Becoming an Entrepreneur. And we're going to deep dive into this book and see whether we can glean wisdom. The advantage of a conversation like this is that you will pick up a few lessons as someone who is offering training in entrepreneurship via our mentorship program, Mogobe mentorship program, Mogobe Entrepreneurship mentorship program. You get to have, as it were, a front row seat to view or to understand what this animal called entrepreneurship is all about. Let me welcome you to the studio, sir.
Thank you, sir, for having me again. Yeah.
Yes, it's your second visit to the studio. The last time we were here was 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, would you care to just introduce yourself to the new viewers who may not have watched you last time?
Yes, sir. My name is Moemedi Senwelo. I'm the founder of Cricket Botswana. Cricket Botswana has 33 centers in Botswana, and we offer tutorial services full-time, part-time, and on weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When was the company formed?
We started in 2017. That is not is the time when we changed the names to Cricket. We actually started in 2011.
2011.
We had a different name, yeah.
It was operating under what name?
Word Cricket Tutorials.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's been around more than a decade.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in terms of reintroducing yourself as an entrepreneur, I think the important thing to touch on is the fact that you've now grown the centers, and you've tweaked the franchise model that you use. Can you share with the viewers about that a little bit?
The franchising.
The recent changes you've done.
Yeah. The part of the business has the franchising aspect. It used to be the biggest part of the business, but recently we have been reducing it and managing most of the centers as they expired and there was non-renewal and some terminations because of non-compliance.
Okay.
So, but we still are a franchising business. We just have to find the right franchisees who are willing to comply with our business model.
All right. You've written a book, sir, Becoming an Entrepreneur. What inspired you to write this book?
I looked at our landscape of business. The books that we have read about entrepreneurship as Botswana, they are written predominantly in America and they are for the setup in America. Most of the points are relevant, but I wanted a book that can be relevant to a local person, give local examples of what is it that it takes to start a business, maybe without capital or maybe in a situation like Botswana where there are so many barriers to entry into business.
Okay. And of course, the book has been out since 2020. What kind of feedback have you been getting from the public about the book? Those who've read it.
The feedback is amazing. I have heard people come back to me and say, the book has changed the way they have been approaching entrepreneurship or the way they see themselves as entrepreneurs. So the feedback has been amazing. So far, we have sold over 1,200 copies. So that is a milestone.
For Botswana, that's a bestseller.
Yeah, it's a bestseller.
I'm told over 1,000 is a bestseller.
Yes, sir.
I know because my book we've sold 600.
Yeah.
So I have 400 to go, and then I become a bestseller.
Wow. Yeah.
But now let's now deep dive into the issue. What is actually the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman?
The two might be seem like it's one thing. Most of people, they use the word business person and businessman and entrepreneur interchangeably as if it's one thing. But when we get to understanding how they work, you realize that there are two total different things. Like for example, a business person is someone who is going to establish a business, or someone who identifies an already existing idea and they just work on that idea without making any changes or being innovative in their approach. They don't reinvent the wheel. But if you look at an entrepreneur will take the same idea and approach it in an innovative way, come up with something new, come up with something bigger than where the approach that a businessman would use. So an example that I can give, if someone is running a bakery and they're just supplying the local neighborhood, that person is a business person. And then if another person is running a bakery and they're supplying the whole country with bread, that person is an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs solve a bigger problem, whereas a business person would mainly be what we may call self-employed, people who will be selling from their boot, people who will be selling on the roadside. Those are business people.
So it's really a matter of scale.
Yes, sir.
When you scale, you become an entrepreneur.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In Botswana, would you say that entrepreneurship is still at its infancy, or is it more like a toddler or a teenager even?
I would say it's a teenager. Because so many people have appreciated the idea of being an entrepreneur as opposed to maybe just saying they're going to be career people and work for someone else. There are some people who are independent entrepreneurs and they're rising.
So the idea is now taking root.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What sets entrepreneurs apart from the rest of the community? What do you say in your book sets them apart?
I would say when you look at the approach of an entrepreneur, you realize that one of the things that they do is when they come up with an idea, they will not just look at an idea that is already there and just repeat the same idea the way it's been done. There's going to be some variation or change to it that is innovative. And then the other element is on the element of creating a new market. Like an entrepreneur can come up with a product that doesn't have a market. They create their own market, and then a whole new idea that never existed before. We can take examples of the Facebook. Before there was Facebook,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. No one thought people can live online, like the way Facebook and social media is now a part of our life. That is a creation of a new market. That is the kind of thinking that an entrepreneur will come up with.
But apparently other people had dabbled in similar social media networks, but they had never, as it were, weaponized it the way Zuckerberg managed to weaponize it for optimum usage.
Yes, sir.
So it takes that little extra thinking.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, an issue always arises when you talk about entrepreneurs, the issue of nurture over nature. Whether entrepreneurs are born, or whether they are made, meaning whether they are developed or it's a natural skill that you are born with. What's your answer?
I would say it's natural skill that you are born with. Not everybody is cut out for entrepreneurship. There are people who are going to be best as working for other people, supporting the vision of the entrepreneur, and they are going to be successful in that area, and they are going to be recognized in that area. But there are those who will be risk takers, who will go all out and invent new things, take risks, and create opportunities for everybody.
I would argue that it's both. You'd have to be born with that gene, as it were, but it still needs to be developed. The talent still has to be fine-tuned through nurture.
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes, definitely. The element of development cannot be neglected, because the skill has to be it has to be honed to make it.
Yeah. But is there such things as a hopeless case where nothing can be done? A person can never become an entrepreneur, no matter what you do to them.
No, there is no such case. I think it's a decision. If someone decides and says, I want to be an entrepreneur, they can become an entrepreneur. Everybody has a potential to become a multi-millionaire entrepreneur if they choose to.
Now, in developed economies like America, the startup ecosystem is very advanced. What are your views on the state of the startup ecosystem in Botswana?
Talking about America, they have what we call venture capitalists. You can just literally come up with an idea, and the next thing you meet a venture capitalist and they appreciate your idea, they see the feasibility of the idea, and it takes off from that investment. But here in Botswana, you can have a brilliant idea, a great idea that can change around people's lives and impact many people. But the lack of that access to venture capitalists and other facilities that are there in the developed world is really a setback for us.
Well, we're trying to do something about it. Us at Angel Network Botswana,
Yes.
we've already found a few startups that we've invested in, and we've been around now 4 years, and we'd like to think 4.5 years or more. We'd like to think that we are doing something about the issue, and through angel investing. What is your view on such initiatives?
It's a great development. I'm happy to hear that, because so many people carry big ideas, and they are looking for people who have the money, who can put investment into those ideas and bring them to life. So that will be a game changer for Botswana with Angel Network Botswana. So it will help a lot of people to get established.
Okay. Now, there are models of entrepreneurship or types of systems of entrepreneurship. Do you mind sharing on those?
Yes. There's what we call the commercial entrepreneurship, which you and I are part of, where we call ourselves capitalists. We are in it to make profit. And then there's what is called social entrepreneurship. It's another popular one, but it is also in many ways a very important one, because not all of us can be commercial entrepreneurs, and not all of us can be social entrepreneurs.
Can you give an example of social entrepreneurs?
Social entrepreneurship is like people who run non-profit making organizations. I would give an example of someone here in Botswana. There's one man called Tabiso Mashaba.
Tabiso Mashaba.
Yeah, he has an organization called These Hands. These Hands. So These Hands is an organization that goes to rural communities and establishes innovation centers. So people in rural areas, all those skills that were there in the past of creating things, indigenous technologies, he refines them, and he helps those people to come up with products from indigenous technology and even using the modern day technology. And he takes them for opportunities in other countries where their products can be displayed, and maybe even an opportunity to be funded. And this can actually turn into business ideas, into business industries. So social entrepreneurship in that way, he's doing this out of passion. He's not hoping to make profit, but he's impacting humanity by being able to facilitate.
How does he fund his efforts?
I'm not very sure.
I mean this sort of social entrepreneurs, how do they normally fund their projects?
There will be business people who invest into their projects, who sees the value in what they're doing, and they put an investment into the projects. And for him, I know there are some international organizations that he works with that are helping to facilitate all these innovation hubs around the country.
And you mentioned two types.
The other one is the commercial entrepreneurship that we both know. Like,
so it's only two.
It's only true, sir. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like me right now, running cricket as a business that makes profit. It makes me a commercial entrepreneur, in the sense that my aim is to make profit as a business, and I can give to social causes if they need to be, but that is not my primary objective. I don't have the pressure to give to social causes.
How does that model, the model of the capitalist entrepreneur, square up against the social one, and which one would be preferable?
It's really a matter of personal preference, or some can say calling. Social entrepreneurs are mostly people who are called. It's something that you say, I want to be a pastor. I don't think people who want to be pastors, they're doing it for profit. And someone will say, I want to impact my community in this way. So it's an issue of that. But now I would prefer commercial entrepreneurship, because
can't you have the same, both of them together? I'm thinking of an example like Bill Gates, who started Microsoft, and then at some point when he has been super successful, he then funded Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and which was also successful, but it's more on a philanthropical side. I assume social entrepreneurship is the same as philanthropy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
If we explain it, it's that way.
Yeah.
The example of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the example of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett also gives some of his money to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So at one point in time, commercial entrepreneurs are the ones who support social entrepreneurs. But there are those social entrepreneurs who start an organization for the purpose of just giving back to the community. And even if there's a trading activity that goes on in a big way, the whole purpose of it is to facilitate a certain need in the community.
Can I suggest a third leg of the type of entrepreneur, which is entrepreneurship, where you are applying entrepreneurial skills, entrepreneurial mindset and way of doing things, but you are not an entrepreneur yourself. You're working for somebody else.
Yes, sir.
You could be part of the NGO, but not as the owner. You could be part of a company, but at a lower position. But you're an entrepreneur. You work for someone else, but you apply an entrepreneurial mindset. You could be working for government. Would it be fair to recognize that as category number 3?
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair because entrepreneur, like if you look at most CEOs, in many ways or in all ways that they are entrepreneurs. They're entrepreneurs. That one, the one that starts with an I, not with an E, because they run the business as if it's their own. That is why even their salaries will be in millions. When you hear the salary,
the bonuses can scare you.
They can scare you, like it's somewhere. Yeah. So they get the benefits and the rewards that are the same as the one who started the organization. Yeah.
All right. Now, one of the first things you have to do is to have a viable feasibility study or a viable idea. How do you concretize your idea into a feasibility study that works?
Every idea has to go through a market research. There is a need for one to do market research and really investigate if the idea is feasible, is suitable for the market, for the environment. We can see an idea maybe working in Europe, and then you love the idea and you bring it to Botswana, only to find that the market is not ready, maybe the technology or the infrastructure or stuff. You see how long it took for us to have something like Uber. Right now we have InDrive, but it took maybe 10 years or more. The rest of the world had it, but because now we didn't have the streets and everything, and even right now it's only working in Gaborone and probably Francetown. But if you go to a village, because there are no streets, there are no net, it's hard for it to function at its optimum. So some of the ideas might be good for another environment and not good for. So it will take that research to find out if the kind of environment that you are bringing the idea to, will it favor that idea? Will it make it work?
So how do you create the feasibility study? I mean, we at Angel Network have a thing called the canvas, the business canvas, where we show you the type of things you have to fill in to complete a picture. And we also have a pitch deck. We would have a model pitch deck, or if you like, a pitch deck to be populated with ideas and concepts. Is it something like that you have in mind when you talk about a feasibility study?
Yeah, even the traditional one where you do questionnaires and you get out there and find out if customers are willing to buy your product. I know to an extent sometimes the market can tell you that because they don't comprehend a new product. But there's a necessity to go out there and get information, so that even when you take the risk and say, the market might not understand this product, but I know it will consume it. But you have some data that you can use to say, okay, I have my numbers here. Out of a market of 100, 20 people are willing to buy, and I know I just need 10 to break even.
Most of us as potential investors, especially at Angel Network Botswana, we would insist on a thing called proof of concept, POC, otherwise known as traction. In your thinking, does that have to be demonstrated in the feasibility study also?
It's different when you are starting on your own, and also when you are looking for external funding. When the POC will be important when you are looking for external funding, because you have to convince someone on your idea. I've seen that some ideas, even if you can pitch them whoever, they might be turned down, and even though they get turned down,
many times you say it's too early. Too early. Meaning there's no proof.
There's no proof, but the idea is viable. The idea, you can start it small and build it up and make it work without necessarily bringing or maybe you can bring them later when you have already proven yourself that you can run with this thing, and this thing it has a potential to grow.
Are there any, in terms of just successful business ideas that have been built through this approach, are you able to give examples or maybe types of businesses which started in this manner and then you graduated to really take shape, and you see the entrepreneurship model kicking in and being successful?
What I always recommend people when they are looking for an idea that can work, I would always say, look at your strengths, look at what you are good at. What is it that you can do that you are good at? Like if you are a speaker, can you maybe can start with the business of speaking. If you are good at taking care of children, you can start a babysitting business or a preschool or a nursery. Kore, the idea of strengths plays a bigger role. Kore, besides the market research that you are going to do and put in place and all the data and everything, a business that really wins is the one that you do out of passion. It's sometimes the case that people will see an idea flourishing on another person, and because another person is flourishing on this idea, everybody copies it. They have that me too of it.
Me too.
Yeah, the me too of it. And once we take it down to say the one who has the most passion about it, the one who is passionate about the idea, they tend to stay longer. There's this research that says the first 5 years of a business, 9 out of 10 businesses will fail, and then out of those ones that survive the first 5 years, 9 out of 10 of them will fail in the second 5 years. So we see that demonstrated with the idea of passion versus just getting into an idea because you are seeing it, someone being successful or someone driving a nice car or living in a big house and saying, I want to do this too. So I would always advise that someone, if you want to start a business, can you look at what is it that you are good at and
That's
build
a very, very powerful point. I've often taught and emphasized that it's wrong for an entrepreneur to go to a consultant and have that consultant draft a feasibility study from start to finish. It's just wrong because the vision has not been implanted in the consultant's head, whether it's your accountant or anybody. For that thing to succeed, you need to not only just have internalized it, but find a way of articulating it such that when you come in front of funders or banks or whoever, you are better able to convince them that this idea can work. So what is your view on that strong sentiment that I'm expressing?
Yeah, I very much believe that there's no such thing called a winning business plan. I've seen people put adverts all over the place and say, buy a winning business plan. There's the winning business plan is the one that comes from the
heart
spirit,
of the entrepreneur.
the heart of the entrepreneur, like something that you can't replicate, that you can't you can't copy. That comes with the passion of the entrepreneur for that idea, for the purpose of saving more than just being profit oriented. Because one of the elements of entrepreneurs is that they are looking at saving more and more people. If Mr. Mogobe is into property, they will be caring more about how can I make more and more accommodation affordable to more and more families, and have businesses, have places where they can run at affordable rates. That is where passion comes in. You will see at the core of entrepreneurship is about saving people, and the rewards come later. They don't become the main thing. The main thing is saving people, and the more people you serve, the more the rewards will come.
That's a very, very powerful point. There's a thing called DD. In real estate, we believe that is very, very crucial. In fact, all our offers to acquire property are subject to DD. But I believe that DD is just as important in business. Can you define due diligence and then explain it in terms of how important it is to successful entrepreneurship?
Due diligence, because now there's the what do you call this? The risk factor involved, the capital that you're going to put in, or other people's money that you're going to use to put into the idea. It makes it important to do your due diligence and make sure that whatever you are buying into is really something that is going to be profitable. That is why I'll also go back to the idea of something to do with your passion, your skills, is something that you can have the drive to go on. Because people will get recommended ideas that, if you can do this business, it will work. This business has a lot of money. Can you just get into it? So some people start business with that kind of thinking that, hey, there's money in this thing. These people in this industry are making money, and then you just go in and you don't do your due diligence, and you don't know if you have the staying power. In business, there's the staying power. That challenges that are going to come with that industry. There's a lot of technicalities that you have to learn in every field, and that will take passion and staying power to be able to do that.
Speaking of passion, you say that the story in my book, Crack It, another book you wrote, shows how failure and mistakes brought the best out of me. I want you to develop that a little bit in the context of due diligence, making mistakes, trial and error, sharing part of your story, and seeing how you can help the entrepreneur who's watching understand the importance of that. Not just only due diligence, but those early mistakes that you have to go through.
Really, one of the realities that we have to face when we get into entrepreneurship is that we are going to fail, we're going to lose money. So those two things, you cannot avoid them. You can't skip them. At one point you're going to fail. Even with a well-researched idea, with a well-financed idea, there's a point where you're going to fail. There's a point also that where you're going to lose money in the process. And those are we call them the school fees. That is the cost of growing there. You'll learn from those mistakes, and you'll learn how not to repeat them. And they are there throughout the entrepreneurship journey. And talking about my mistakes, I also, there are some blunders that I did in the business. Sometimes giving away stake too soon. I remember the first business stake, like equity
in your business.
In a business, like my first business, the wet crackers tutorials one, I gave away 50% of it, or just for someone just to be my partner, and without even having any conditions or setting a capital requirement. Just say, you are my friend, we can do this together.
You didn't even have an agreement, did you?
No, there was no agreement.
Because written agreement.
There was no written agreement. It was just a gentleman's agreement, to the point where I just had to end up letting it go. It's like, you know what, get 100% of this, I'll start a new thing. And that's how I started cracking. Because now I had to come to a situation where now I want my vision to be implemented, and my partner wants his vision to be implemented, and we have two different visions on the same idea. And I had to bow out and start afresh, and he remained with the whole idea that I had started.
So do you think of that first business where you lost all that money as school fees as well?
Yeah, it's school fees. Because
Are you not minimizing it too much?
No, I don't think I'm minimizing it too much, because it's about learning from my mistakes. And if I'm to get into a business,
you have to be prepared to lose money like that if you're going to succeed.
Yes.
In other words, you have to almost keep falling and picking yourself up.
Yes. Because entrepreneurs take risks. If you look at how, just reading the biography of Elon Musk, how many times those rockets exploded, and he kept on rebuilding until one succeeded. It's entrepreneurship. At one point, he was almost heading to decide whether to invest in Tesla or SpaceX or the other company, and
he decided on both.
On both, yeah.
Or on three. No, at the time I was reading, there were two.
There were two, yes. And he had to split the money in between, and at the end of the day, both ideas worked. So sometimes the risk element of being an entrepreneur comes into effect.
But isn't Elon Musk an extreme case? Because in his book, he says if there's a 20% chance of success, then it's worth it if it's important enough. In other words, if it's something that is that is important, even if it's 20%, you go for it. I tell my mentees that no, you should aim for at least 60%.
Yes.
One thing for sure, I say to them, don't go for 100% certainty, because you should never let perfection be the enemy of progress. That's what I tell them. And I put it at 60%. But Elon Musk, I read in his book, 20% if it's important. He says if whatever it is important, 20%. What's your take on that in terms of risk assessment?
I think for him, he's a unique entrepreneur. I would say he's a unique entrepreneur. He's a rare case of entrepreneurship, just like Steve Jobs. Those are rare cases of entrepreneurship where the thinking is on another level. Like even when they take risks, they take it on a total different level that they can risk it all. And even if they risk it all and they lose it all, they know how to rebuild it all. Yeah. So at a startup level, ideally 60% would make so much sense because you can't afford to imagine having taken a personal loan and starting a business and then you risk it all like Elon Musk could do.
Of course, the extreme side is those perfectionists, those who suffer from what I call analysis paralysis, or is it paralysis analysis? Paralysis by analysis, or whatever it is.
Analysis paralysis.
Yes, that's what it is. But because they then want to push everything to 100% perfection before they start. What advice do you have on that?
What you should aim for is not perfection. What you should aim for is excellence. If you can take your idea, your project, whatever you want to do, to the most excellent level that you can say, this is my best, then you should go, you should start, you should publish that book, you should launch that business, you should, if you say this is
get
the
on
best,
with it. Yeah.
this is the best that I've done. And look at Microsoft, how it has evolved over the years. The first Microsoft has so many bugs, it was giving a hard time, but they kept on refining it and refining it and refining it over the years. So you can never have anything perfect at onset. Even books, like we write books and we do second edition, we revise them, we put more content. We said, no, now the times have changed. We revisit it. That shows that learning and growing is evolutionary. So you cannot have something perfect at a go.
Let's talk about raising capital. What is your approach that you teach in your book about that, and what are the challenges around that?
First of all, I would want to say you don't need capital to start a business. First of all, I might have a full chapter on ideas that you can use to raise capital, but the first disclaimer that I want to say is that you don't need capital to start a business. Your idea alone is enough. You can just start a business at an idea level. So with an idea, you start with what you have. You start with the resources that you have. You start. I will give an example of a speaker. If you're a speaker, you can start speaking, maybe charging fair rates, like bringing in people. You speak to them, motivate them, encourage them, or train them, whichever one that you're doing. And from there, you keep on accumulating a little bit there, putting it together to the level that you can now afford to maybe publish a book that goes along with the speaking, maybe BQ accredit your programs such that now they can attract a greater market.
Yeah, if they require certification.
Certification. And also, if you want to do corporate training, it will also give you that advantage. If you do BQ training, it will add to your portfolio that you can now train organizations, employees, and management, depending on what you're training on. So those are, you evolve with an idea, and during that period, is it Mark Cuban?
There's a guy called Mark Cuban. He's a billionaire.
He's a billionaire. He says sweat capital is the most important capital. Like sweat capital, the one that you raise a little by a little, small by small, like effort by effort, not whereby you come up with an idea and you're looking for 6 million investment, or you're looking for 100 million investment. You don't start that way. Or it's possible to start that way, but even the business,
it's not advisable.
It's not advisable to start that way, because even the business that you hear that a business got 100 million injection, and you check how many years it existed before they got that 100 million injection. They would have existed sometimes 8 years, 15 years before that. And they were building systems, building the market, building reputation, all that. And by the time when now they qualify for 100 million injection from an angel investor, or from a bank, or from whichever source of income, they would have built traction. That is the most important thing. And people just come with ideas and they present them before other business people, or before angel investors, or before banks, but they haven't put in their own sweat. They haven't sacrificed for the idea. They haven't even put any of their money into the idea. Like even just to register a company, they even just sacrifice $1,000 to register a company, and yet they expect you to put 100 million in the idea. So it doesn't make sense at all.
So you're like me, you believe that every business should be bootstrapped until it's a little mature enough to attract funding.
Yes, sir.
Are there time frames, or it just depends on the entrepreneur or on the circumstances? Or is it trial and error?
It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the entrepreneur also. How hungry are they to make the idea work? And what you should also appreciate is that the process of building a business, it's a process. Like, it's not microwave. Building a business is a process. It takes time. There are steps that you have to take along the process, and as you build the business, you as the entrepreneur, you have to be refined by the process, such that once you get to a certain level, like we have seen scenarios of people who got funding from government bodies. Like government bodies like CEDA will just give you a funding, maybe 10 million to start a project, and people will go and squander it. You've seen people who won tenders. Someone will win a tender, and instead of doing the construction, they go and buy a car, they go for vacation overseas, and they come back. Because they haven't went through the process of managing 1,000, then managing 10,000, then managing 100,000, then managing 1 million. Now they just get 20 million in the account,
and they just tempted to blow it.
It just confuses the whole idea there, because you need to be built as you build the business, and that is why you have to go for the process, so that the process builds you for capacity to say when you get to 100 million, you can handle that.
I want to ask you a two-pronged question. I've spoken to the founder of Flowtech, Mr. Naik, on this program, and he speaks of a concept of 1,000 days. He says that in the Indian community, they time the business to see whether it will last 1,000 days. And then I've interviewed another lady by the name of Maitri. Maitri, for 10 years, was running the finances of Letseho as a chief finance officer. She talks about the valley of death. And she talks about that valley of death where most businesses fail within that within the first 2 years or something. What is your take on their analysis, and how do you position yourself to survive that 1,000 days, or to avoid that valley of death where 90% of businesses end up?
1,000 days and 2 years. For me, it's 5 years.
For you, it's 5 years.
5 years, yes. I would say if you can pass the first 5 years, and then also pass the second 5 years, that's 10 years now. Then you would have said you are now, you have survived as a business. Now you are going to be moving from just surviving now to starting to flourish,
to thrive
and to flourish eventually. Yes. That is my take on it. The 1,000 days, I appreciate the concept of 1,000 days, but I think it's too soon to judge the success of the business or the continuity of the business after successfully completing 1,000 days. I think if you can complete 1,000 days, then you should target to go for 5 years, then go for 10 years. Then now, beyond 10 years, you are now building an empire. You are working towards the 20 years of a business, which is an empire.
And how do you avoid becoming a statistic during those early days? I can ask, in the case of cricket, what shock absorbers did you develop to let me use another analogy, to bulletproof yourselves against failure?
I think the key element has always been excellence and innovation. Looking at the industry that we are in, is tutoring. It's an unregulated market. It's an informal market. Anybody can just wake up one day and open a tuition center. The following day, like you wake up today, tomorrow you have your own tuition center. So it's the barriers of entries are very low. Like anyone can just enter on any day. So what has distinguished us, what has given us staying power, is the fact that we have always innovated. We have always been excellent in our service offering, and find a way of doing it differently from everybody else. Everybody else will be tutoring chemistry, biology, physics, and maths, the sciences, the maths, English, and the core subjects, and they help students to pass the exam. But what is it? What value are we adding to a student's life beyond just helping them to pass the next exam? That is what has differentiated, and we introduce personal development as a program that we teach to our students as a differentiator. And as much as other people can list in their flyers that they have presented, they can't do it the way we do it. We have manuals on it. We have books that we have written out of experience, and someone can say they're doing it, but they will not do it the same way we do it.
So as a result, you've raised the barriers of entry may be low, but the barriers for success are high.
Yes, sir.
Because you have to innovate and invest.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Another question that entrepreneurs ask, or would-be entrepreneurs, is when to quit their job if they are employed. What is the ideal time, and what do you consider before quitting?
When you have a business that is running on the side, we normally call them side hustles. Like a lot of people would have a side hustle. They'll be selling vegetables or clothes or shoes or whichever products. So you have that. If you see that business starting to demand more of your time, if you see that business starting to sometimes it makes money that you work for at your current job. Those are the glimpses.
When you say about the same amount, right?
About the same amount, yes. Yes, just, even if it's half or quarter, but you look at the income, and you look at what you are earning at your current job, and you realize that if I can put more effort on this, if I can work this thing full time, because I'm just doing this on weekends, I'm just doing this in the evenings, but what if I do it from 8 until 5? I can increase my income here. The business. When you do your maths, your calculations, the business should be able to show you that it can be able to pay you, so that at least at minimum you should be able to afford your basic expenses that your job afforded you. That's the safest way to start. Like to say, if I can afford the minimum, I can be able to pay rent, I can be able to take care of my children, and live and eat well, and go to work every day. Then it's worth taking the risk of quitting your job and focusing on your business full time.
Now, but there are those who want to keep both. Is such a thing feasible in the long term, where you run a business out there and you've employed people, but you want to stay at your 9 to 5? I've seen people trying to sustain both for many years, 5-10 years and beyond.
It will remain what you have created to be, which is a side hustle, which is a part-time thing. It will never grow anywhere beyond that, because really at the core of entrepreneurship is the entrepreneur sacrificing and putting the energy into the business, putting the spirit into the business, putting systems into place and everything, which are going to facilitate for the growth of the business.
Sometimes I say body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, you have to put your all in. Yeah, literally body, mind, and soul. And then that is where now the business will start taking off. Until you make it, as long as you make it a side hustle, it will remain a side hustle. It will complement your income. If that's all you need, it's fair enough. It is a side hustle. It supplements your income. It will pay electricity. It will buy meat, and you won't struggle with transport fare. So,
okay. Women succeeding in business. You've asked a question in the book: do women succeed in business? What's the answer?
For many years, the world of business have always been seen to be a male thing, or a male-dominated industry, and the idea was to encourage women, like the women who have aspirations of being big in business, or of going big in business, that it is possible to go big in business. There are some women who have started, who are big, who have global enterprises.
What does it take for a woman to succeed as an entrepreneur?
It's the same principles, really. Yeah, it's the same principles that apply that we have been talking about. It's just a thing that to say,
Some women ask themselves, should I start a family until it gets to a certain number and then go into my business, like maybe have 3 children and then start? Some people wonder whether you can actually juggle, start a family and run your enterprise at the same time. So I think those questions I can uniquely put to women, but because you've written about it, I'm going to put you on a spot and ask you.
Yes. A woman naturally is a manager, and it takes wisdom really on this aspect when you are building a business and you are also having a family, whether you are a single parent or you are married with a family. It will take the wisdom. It will take the Proverbs chapter 31 wisdom, the one that talks about the wife of noble character, how he sets up
What
her
does it
house.
say? The Proverbs 31?
Proverbs, the wife of noble character, how he sets up her house, and she's into trade, she's into business. She's a businesswoman. That woman.
So the Bible encourages women to be business.
Yes,
go into business.
Yes, because it talks about how the husband and the children are not suffering. They have enough food to eat. They have warm clothes. The husband is expected at the gate because of that enterprising wife. So it's possible to be able to put the element of business and family together. And as a manager, a woman,
I'm lucky to have such a wife, by the way.
Wonderful.
She's been a business woman through and through.
That's wonderful. So the wife as a manager, you can hire house aides, people who are going to assist in the house. You want to hire managers at the business, and your role as a businesswoman is to supervise the work of what goes on at the house with the house aides, what goes on at the business with the managers and all the employees that you have in place. That is what will make it easier.
I see that you've joined my my mentorship program on real estate, and one of the things you write about is lifelong learning. Is there a connection there?
Yes. Every field you have to learn. You have to learn. Entrepreneurship. If you are to be an entrepreneurship, you have to learn more. You have to learn everything about the business. You learn marketing, you learn sales, you learn human resource, you learn communication, you learn finance management, you learn everything that is there to learn about that business, even the technicality of it that really produces the product or the service. You have to learn about that.
So then I'm going to put you in a spot and say, since you joined our entrepreneurship program on real estate, what have you learned in the spirit of lifelong learning?
In the spirit of lifelong, I have learned that everything really requires learning. Like I had relegated the idea of real estate to the future, but since I joined the program, I realized that I can do it now. For me, I was thinking I need to. My business is education, and I'm just going to run education. I don't need to bother myself about tenants and building multi-res and all that. But I've realized that I can diversify into real estate, and it's a business that can be done. It was
in
just
tandem with other businesses.
Yes, it was just the thinking. Ever since I joined the program, my thinking has changed about the approach.
Because you've been exposed to successful people, you've read about it, you've also taken it from the class. So would you encourage other entrepreneurs watching this to consider mentorship, not just my mentorship, but this mentorship everywhere?
Mentorship is key. Like in business, one of the keys to business is mentorship. I'll give an example that I once heard, that there are 2 ways to know that a fire can burn. It's either you put your hand into it and feel that this thing burns, fire burns, or someone tells you that this is fire, it burns, and you listen to them and you know it bends. So that is a mentor. A mentor is the one who has already put his hand in the fire and they know it bends. And when they tell you that don't invest in that thing, they know what they're talking about. They are not just trying to block you from prospering. They know that you're going to fail, you're going to lose money there. And you could have avoided losing money by listening to your mentor or taking advice from your mentor. I know sometimes mentors can not calculate it the way you calculated it, but those are rare cases. In many cases, when we want to go our own ways and someone who has been ahead, knows better, has been there.
Yeah. Anthony Robbins puts it better. He says success leaves clues.
Yeah.
And therefore, all you have to do is to follow a successful person and watch the clues that they've left behind. Time management is something that you teach about in the book. Using yourself as a case study, how's your approach to time management?
I would say I'm a very scheduled person. All my hours are packed. Every 30 minutes, I have this daily planner, the one that shows every 30 minutes of my day, what am I going to be doing, where, what, all that. So that's how, and
you fill it in the night before.
You write it in night before, in the morning before I start my day. So yeah, sometimes I leave blanks for emergencies, like that. So as an entrepreneur, you know, it's easy to think there's nothing to do, because after quitting your job and saying you're working on a business full time and you have employees who are doing that, and your job is to supervise and manage their work, you might feel like you have a lot of ample time and you can just have anyone who comes and crashes on you and wants to have a minute with you, business advice, want to take you out for coffee. So those are the disciplines.
A lot of people, they want to ambush you.
They want to ambush you, especially when now you start, rising in business. People are like, can we go for coffee? Can we go for coffee? I need business advice. I need, I want to propose an idea. I want to pitch. So you have those kind of instances, and those are time wasters. And you have to really be disciplined about those, and close your time with work, like work all the time. And when you have, if someone really is worth it, they're going to make an appointment and they'll come at the appointed time, and you'll have that meeting and you go back to work after the meeting.
Okay, another thing that can cripple us as African businesses is setting up what I call lifestyle businesses, where a lot of money is used from the business to maintain a lifestyle, and there's no real distinction between the business and the personal. And one of the things that you talk about in the book is handling business money. Can you say a thing or two about that?
My approach my belief has always been that the business and the owner are two separate entities. That is one of the lessons that you are taught in accounting, that the business and the owner are two separate entities, that if you're an owner of a business, you have to have a salary from the business, especially when you are working on it full time and you have no other source of revenue. You have to be having your own salary. You are going to look at what is the fair amount that the business can be able to pay to you, so that you are able to afford a decent accommodation, eat well, be able to commute to work, and all the expenses that are basic. So I would say to someone who doesn't have a salary, you just have the business card or the business app, and whenever there's a need in your life, in your personal life, you just swipe, you just transact, you just, I did that at the start, where there was no distinction between me and the business money. I was like one of the business expenses. So the problem is if you become one of the business expenses, you are an unlimited expense. Like, and the personal needs are so many, you can't satisfy them. Even if you can give yourself a fat salary, there will always be more than that. And if you don't have a limit of how much you're taking away from your business as a salary, you can just eat the business to the ground. You can and then when it comes to my friend, there's no money to pay rent, there's no money to pay salaries, there's no money to pay anything.
Yeah. But how do you create a real firewall between your business and yourself to make sure that the two don't intertwine?
It depends. It's like when you are when you are alone. At one point I had to hire an accountant and make them a signatory. So such that some of the transactions that I have to do, I have to go ask him. They have to authorize. So because before
If
then,
it's beyond a certain amount,
yes, even
and
all the amounts.
the accountant has the power to say no.
Yeah, I think at best you might have to give them that power, but don't take it or override it, because it's at your discretion. But it's just to create a discipline system to say, you know what, I think I'm failing to be disciplined on my own. Can I have someone that I'm going to make them co-signatory, that I can't transact without them taking part in the transaction, whether they initiate it or they authorize it, and you have to have reasons why, justifiable reasons. Is this a business expense? How is this money going to add value back to the business? Those are some of the questions that I've put in place for myself to say, if I'm releasing this money, is it what value is it bringing in going out?
In African culture, we didn't have a word like entrepreneurship, but we always had Masimo, Moraga, and the home. We had those three. How difficult is it adjusting from the African form of quote unquote entrepreneurship to the modern one? I'm asking this question because a lot of people have said the reason we don't do so well, or part of the reason we don't do so well, is because we are first generation entrepreneurs, and adjusting from our systems to the new one is a challenge. Is this something you've thought about? Is this something you touch upon in the book? The transition from our old mindset to the new systems.
I didn't write about it on the book, but it's a reality that is there, that has crossed my mind at one point. The fact that we are used to hand to mouth, like they call it subsistence farming.
Yes.
You know, where you just produce for your own consumption. At best, you can barter with someone who's producing something that you don't have. So that is as far as entrepreneurship we are just exchanging another commodity for another commodity, so that
because
we
stored our wealth in cattle,
so that we could eat. So we have never been built to raise with the mindset of accumulating and growing wealth.
Although there were some successful people who had other less successful people under him and the system of Mahisa, but it's just that we didn't have cash, in the sense that we have now, and we stored our wealth in cattle, in barns. We did have barns where we store grains. So I just wonder whether you people who think deeper about these things have applied your mind to this thing in terms of dealing with the transition.
I haven't really looked into it at that perspective.
Maybe we need our scholars from UB to go deeper on this one.
Yes, sir.
And then what about Tele? I talk about Tele in my entrepreneurship class, and I think it's as real as it gets. I describe it in the context of a Setswana proverb that say, "Lihuha la apetswe le lentswe, lentswe la butswa la nyera, but lihuha la sala." That sometimes we've been incapacitated and sabotaged by this problem of lefufa or tele. Is it? Do you have a viewpoint on this, and have you experienced it?
Yes. The jealousy part. I don't know what is wrong with Botswana or Africans. When another person of that kind, of that skin color, of that origin starts to succeed or starts to thrive, that element of jealousy and it starts to kick in. That element of wanting to sabotage something that is locally made, that is produced by a native or I don't know what they think. They seem to.
They've been over colonized, maybe.
Because if
they believe that they're inherently superior somehow. There's that element. So they cannot adjust to the fact that one of them is doing better.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's correct, but what I know is that it's real.
It's real. Because you see, if someone comes from outside of Botswana, like a foreigner comes in Botswana, and they want to do exactly the same thing that you are doing, the way the reception is going to be totally different from the reception that you'll get as a Botswana trying to do the same idea. They will rather give away
block
the opportunity,
you and delay
and give it to another person,
bamboozle you, throw you from corner to post, pillar to post. I don't know, but shouldn't we? Isn't this what the president was trying to address when he talked about mindset change?
It applies to mindset change, because the sooner we realize that if we empower another Motswana, you are not empowering them such that they could step over you. You are empowering them so that they can improve the welfare of
even be in a position to employ you when you retire. The interesting thing is, some of them, the next day or the next after retirement, they come to you and look for jobs. And sometimes you wonder whether you should politely remind them how much they sabotaged you.
Because they don't realize, because if we can, like, really, to talk about this, if we can really give opportunities to natives, to Botswana, like if you give opportunities to Botswana to grow, to thrive, to opportunities, whether it's getting a cedar loan
without blocking them,
getting land, getting a license, all those opportunities that are there, and you allow super individuals to be rich, to be millionaires, to be successful. I will give an example of the land rights issue that we have been talking about at our real estate class. You have a team, you want to convert it into maybe commercial or to multi-res, and then someone at land but doesn't grant you that right,
but will grant a foreigner
in a
heartbeat
that right. And they see the value that the moment I change this person's property into commercial or into multi-residential, the valuation alone is just going to explode, and the project that they're going to do is going to make them a multi-million. The jealousy aspect comes from that fact that who is this person? Who does he think he is? He thinks we can just make him rich just like that. So that's the thinking. He's got to 8 years and he wants to
become richer than
that, as we have been
as
here
we've been working for 10, 20 years.
So that's the approach.
Mr. Senior talks about it a lot, you know? And he's written about in his book. But as entrepreneurs, as Botswana entrepreneurs collectively, am I right in saying that the only way to deal with it is to confront it and to call it out?
Yes, sir. I would quote you.
You just have to confront it. That's what
the obstacle is the way. If it makes itself the obstacle, it's either you climb it or you crush it and go through it. But you have to find a way there. If the rise of the law gives you the right to be entitled to whatever, whether it's a license, whether it's funding, whether it's changing of land rights. You may have to
fight 3 times as hard as a non-Motswana, but fight
until
Don't just give up.
Until you tire them and they say, "Hey, so that's the mindset."
You want to talk about goal setting and setting targets for entrepreneurs? It's something you've written about.
The element of setting goals will direct the future of the business to say, okay, that is what I want to achieve in the next 12 months. This is what I want to achieve in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, 10 years, up to 100 years. I think if you are to go big in business, think of it 100 years from now and start 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Just go into the future, how you envision your business to progress, and put this as goals. That business will be like this in this timeline, this like this in this timeline, and now you start working. This is what is going to give you the motivation to work. You have the end in mind, like it's spiritual. We have the end in mind, like where the Bible says about got finishing something and then coming back to the present. And so you have the finish that this is created in 100 years. Now we come back to the present and we're going towards the 100
So
year
you
goal.
go there and then you reverse engineer to now. Then you break it into pieces.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's how you succeed. And you don't get discouraged. You start. Important things to start.
Yes,
I mean, there's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yes, sir.
But the second best time is now.
Yes,
So there's that aspect in terms of starting, but then setting goals. Because sometimes you set all these fancy goals, but you don't start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And what would you say about those young entrepreneurs that just are not pulling the trigger and getting started? What do you say to them?
It's really they have to start. There will never be a better time to start. There will never be better opportunities ahead to start. Prices are going up. Prices of the
Land,
currencies inflating. Opportunities are being taken away by those who are ready for them right now, and don't even dare to blame them in the future when you missed your chance, when you procrastinated on starting. Because at one point a property that used to be 1 million right now, it will be 10 million in the future, and you would need it, and you would feel like it is overpriced because at one point it was 1 million.
Yeah. Okay, so that having been said, can you summarize your book in a nutshell and say to the viewer why they should fight tooth and nail to get this book?
I would say the book will just give you a good insight in terms of what you're getting yourself into when you say you want to become an entrepreneur. Really, entrepreneurship, unlike other endeavors, is something that you become. It's a process which we compare to the crucible. It's something that during its process, it shapes you, it shapes your character, it shapes your thinking to be able to go to a certain capacity. That's why we have an entrepreneur with a net worth of $200 billion. You think, okay, what would happen of me if I just have 1 million? Some people, if you just can give them 1 million right now, they will quit their job. They will insult everybody. They will sabotage.
Some would fall apart.
They will fall. Some will die.
Some will die because they can't handle it.
So
maybe that's why they're not getting the money.
Entrepreneurship takes you step by step. You fail. You learn to manage a little.
Because it teaches you how to manage a lot.
Yes.
Through making you suffer through a little.
Yes. By the time you get to 100 million, as an example, it wouldn't scare you to have money just lying there in the account. It don't scare you. You wouldn't have sleepless nights.
$1 billion won't petrify you.
You wouldn't be flying all over the world and not. It's like you are a madman, and because there's money in the account, you are just fighting it and trying to get rid of it until you are at your level, at your lowest level where you are comfortable. So entrepreneurship is a process. It builds you in the process. It builds your capacity to think, to manage money, to manage, and to know that you're a steward. Like that money is not your money.
Yes, yeah.
You're a steward. It's money for salaries. It's money for paying rent. It's money for paying tax. It's money for paying operational expenses. And your reward comes after all those things are paid. A little bit of it comes from there. Then if you don't get that, you can only get it by being in it, by starting and being in the process and learning through it and knowing that it takes time. Some people say it takes about 5 to 10 years for a business to find ground, to be able to start paying you. Maybe just your salary, not even to pay you. Like you can stay at home and just remote control it. No, just to pay you a salary that you can afford a salary like every other person. But the first 7 years, you're probably going to be working for nothing.
Yeah. The book is called Becoming an Entrepreneur by Moemedi Senwelo. It's available where?
You can find it at any cricket center. We have 33 cricket centers across the country. Just visit any cricket center near you and get it. If you can't find it or there's no cricket center in your area, you can contact our head office line is 72 72671267. The number is 72671267. So that's the number you can ask for the book, and then you can be given bank details and you deposit. Then they courier it to you wherever you are in Botswana. So
Yeah, I noticed this one is the revised and expanded edition. So I think the one I have is older. How is it different from the one I have? Should I buy the expanded edition?
no, this is the one that you have, sir.
Oh, okay.
The ones that it came a long way back.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was
So
a
this,
different size.
oh, I
and shape.
see.
Yes,
So
sir.
I just you put in more information,
Yes, sir.
because I see that you even give examples of billionaires
Yeah.
as far as China. You talk about the cash flow systems. I haven't really done justice to the book because it covers so much business innovation in general. So there's a lot more that you get into in the book
Yes.
than we've been able to cover.
Yeah.
But let's just talk a little bit about Cricket as we wrap up. Tell us what the future looks like for Cricket going down a couple of decades. What can we envisage for Cricket?
We have a vision of having schools like transition from being tutoring centers into schools, private schools, boarding schools with different functions. Like if in Francetown we have a sports boarding school, and we have
Why can't you have both? There's demand for tuition, there's demand for schools.
for schools. Yes, yeah, we might not completely abandon the idea of tuition, because at core tuition is part-time and school is a full-time thing. So we can still set them apart, that there's the cricket tuition part and there's the full-time school part. So as we grow into the vision, and as it unveils, because we don't understand it fully. So how we are going to we will take it step by step, that we can have them run side by side. So we are really imagining multiple schools across the country. Then we also imagine having
I guess very soon you'll start building the first one.
Yes,
Or you've already started.
I haven't started.
You're about to start.
I would say no. I'm still consulting with my mentor about.
But you have the piece of land.
Yeah, the piece of land is also there.
I think we should
It has to go through the convention and regular association. So there's still some processes before the change of
but
names.
do you have an architect working on the drawings?
I haven't engaged one yet.
Okay, I would advise that you urgently get an architect working, and you start the process. Just let's practice what we preach.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Let's get started. Okay, now this sounds very exciting. Do you have a question for me as we conclude our conversation, sir?
Yes, sir. I do. I'm going to ask it for the idea of listing, taking a company to the stock exchange as a way of raising capital for your business, for the idea, for the to make the I think I've seen how in America someone will come up with a brilliant idea, and once the idea has hatched, they take it to the New York Stock Exchange, and then it gets funding, and it comes out so good with that good capital. Would you recommend someone who has worked hard and toiled hard to build a business to a certain level, that they could go the listing route as a way of scaling their business?
I have myself been approached to list, but I've had to balance my desire to unlock value in terms of bringing the public in versus the demands on me in terms of bringing additional scrutiny to my business and so on and so forth. So I think if Cricket is considering listing, they should engage Botswana Stock Exchange. The Botswana Stock Exchange have been known to list companies as small as 2-3 million in value, in fact 1 million at some point, and also have the other extreme companies that are worth billions. So it's going to be the personal appetite of the directors in terms of their desire to grow. I mean, the companies that we talk about in America, all without exception, the unicorns that we admire, they went the listing direction. Almost without exception, everybody who's in the Forbes 400 or Forbes 1000 has a listed company. You even have entrepreneurs like Elon Musk. When I say rockstar entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, each of the companies they run is listed. So there's a way in which listing unlocks value, which you have to recognize. But it brings a lot of scrutiny that maybe sub CEOs are not geared for. I'll give you an example of Donald Trump. At some point, he listed his organization, the Trump organization. But I think within a short space of time, he delisted because he didn't want the amount of scrutiny that is required and the rules that are entailed. For instance, you have to bring a certain type of board. The board has to have certain credentials, and then you have to file certain things. So I think listing is a brilliant idea, and I think not enough local entities are listing the way they ought to. If you take a company like 10 Star, listing has benefited them exponentially at a time when they were very, very small. They were able to build things like Game City and so on and so forth. So that having been said, the answer to your question is yes and no. It's yes and no because it depends entirely on the appetite of the founder and the kind of input that founder receives from its board, and the preparedness of that founder to take in scrutiny as they grow. So it's a double-edged sword. It has its pros and cons. So I'm not against it, neither am I for it. And I'll take it on a case-by-case basis. Yes. I personally haven't listed for the reasons I've explained, but I wouldn't discourage anybody from listing. Not list yourselves.
Yes.
So I suggest you go and meet Borretsaole, people at the BSE, to take you through all the pros and cons. Even levels of listing are different. Yeah, that's as far as I can take it.
Yes, sir.
I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir, you have.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Look at that camera, sir, and leave the viewer with one last motivational, encouraging, or inspirational message about this powerful book here, Becoming an Entrepreneur, or about cricket in general.
To someone who is aspiring to be an entrepreneur one day, you have that idea that is burning, that you have been polishing for some time. What I want to tell you that don't make capital the money that probably you need to start. The reason why you don't start, you don't need capital to start. You only need your idea. You only need yourself. What you already have is enough. You can just put together something and make something functional. I have detailed in the book how you can do that. Like, take what you already have and work on it and start something and create cash flow, create traction. That once you go for financing, you go for funding, there's something that people can see, that this person is doing something. This person has an idea that they're willing to put their skin into it. So that will be my word to you.
Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful guest. You've done a brilliant job.
Thank you, sir.
And congratulations with the book, and best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers. Oh, we forgot to tell people where they can find you. Can you share with them where they can find you very quickly? Apologies.
Okay. Me personally?
Yes, to get the book.
To get the book. Okay. The book is available at all cricket centers. There are 33 cricket centers in Botswana. So if you have a cricket nearby in your town or village or city, approach them and then ask to buy a copy. They'll help you. If there's no cricket in your area, you can just call the head office line. It's 72671267. So that's where you can call and place an order. They'll give you banking details to pay for the book, and then they courier it to where you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Cheers.